Hello and welcome again. My name is Anne Marie of the Art of Healing. So a year or so ago, when the world went into lockdown, I was inspired to create a podcast, an online show, whatever you want to call it, to talk with my spiritual teachers, my spiritual friends. And the first person I thought about was my dear friend, Carol Morgan. So our first Get Up and Go show aired May 12th of 2020. And so here we are at the end of July, the last day of July in 2021. And for sure, for me personally, 2021 has been the year of breaking free. And I have asked my dear friend Carol Morgan to come back and talk about her own personal growth, her own change, and indeed breaking free. So welcome, my dear friend Carol Morgan, and I'm going to change the view, but you can speak. Hello, Carol. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, Anne Marie. Thank you so much for having me again. It was a pleasure to be in your show a year ago when everything was starting to really change. But wow, what a year it has been. It has been a transformational year. And that you invited me back is an honor because there's so much that has transpired. There's so much that has transformed in my life, in the world in general, that wow, it's a very different place than where we were a year ago. So very, very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. I mean, I tried to, I started watching that interview, that very first interview, and our hair has grown longer in 1 year, one of the things. And truly, if you think about where you and I were and where we are today, it's really night and day.
Mhm.
It's quite night and day. So go ahead and talk to us about this theme, which is the theme of breaking free. Please.
Absolutely. I would love to because that's exactly what I'm doing this year. As you said, it has been going on for a while. It's a journey. Breaking free really is a journey. And all of us have something that is keeping us behind, that is keeping us small, that is keeping us fearful. And I decided when COVID hit that it was the time to get rid of that, get rid of all of it. So, really, what I have been doing for the last year is peeling the layers like the onion, one by one, the layers of doubt, the layers of fear, the layers of worry, any ambiguities, and aligning myself with congruency and really standing by what I believe and living the way that I ask others to entertain living. So, what that looked like for me was to pause and really pay attention to what I was doing and saying and how I was acting and how I was thinking. And when the whole COVID thing hit, I realized that I was doing a lot of things out of pilot, out of just momentum, inertia, whatever you want to call it. I wasn't really thinking. I wasn't really living. I was just going through the motions. And there's nothing bad with that. There's a place for that. But in a time where there is so much that is changing, if you stay in autopilot, when you wake up, you're going to be crashing.
Right.
That's basically it. So I realized that it was time really to take control of my life. And once again, because I've done this in the past, decide to create exactly how I want to be living. So when COVID hit, the first gift for me was to stop traveling outside of the country. I was traveling all over the world. Now, do I like it? No, I don't. I loved traveling all over the place. I had so much fun going to all kinds of places, meeting all kinds of people. It was beautiful. So there was nothing wrong with that. But when I wasn't able to travel, it really made me stop and pay attention and be with myself and be with my thoughts. And instead of always being ready to do something else, I had to just be.
Right.
And when I realized in that being that there is so much here at home that was calling for me, that was needing me, that was ready for me to settle down and participate, that if it wouldn't have been for something like that, I wouldn't have stopped. So, first, it was allowing myself the gift to see the gift in the situation instead of getting hung up or tangled up in the energies of the fear that is surrounding this COVID situation. I decided to rise above it and continue to stay above it. I do not want to partake in the fear of any of it. And that has been a gift from that stopping and that deciding I need to do something. And when I stopped, I also realized, well, I have had a beef with the education system in this country forever,
Yeah.
forever, because I really do see the deficiencies in it. I see how it is not truly creating or encouraging a love of learning in kids. They actually dread going to school.
Right.
It's not really creating or inciting any passion in kids. So last year,
I want to just share a synchronicity, Carol, that happened
yes,
just today.
yes,
I was going through my Facebook feed, and I know I copied and pasted the letter that you sent your school exactly a year ago today.
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that's a beautiful synchronicity. I mean, if we want to talk about just what the process of breaking free, in my point of view, is a process of becoming aware of all these systems of oppression that for centuries, each one of us has been blindly led through, because that is what we always thought was
Yeah,
our option, that we never had any options.
yes.
So continue to talk to us about you as a mother of young children and what options you have discovered for their parenting and for their education.
Yes, I would love to. And I agree with you. That is what breaking free is. But also to take it a step further is to take responsibility for your role in the
Exactly.
participation of these systems and in their creation, because
That's
we
correct.
are all participating in this.
Mhm.
Last year, with the COVID situation, I realized, well, I've always wanted to homeschool the kids. I worked full time. There was no way that I could do it. But this brought a need in an opportunity at the same time.
Mhm.
So what we did was we had already enrolled. The kiddos were going to a private school. We had already paid the year up front, so there was nothing to do there. So what we did is that we took advantage of the distance learning. And that was a transition for us, getting them out of that system really of programming. It's not an education system, it's a programming system. And it was amazing when I got involved, truly involved in their education. I could not believe what we were paying for.
Mhm.
I could not believe it. And I basically had to go back to sixth grade with my son because he wasn't grasping what was going on. So I really got involved and I thought, why am I paying? Why are we paying for this when we could be doing it, when we could have a say in the delivery of these materials and really in the materials that are being delivered, because there was stuff that I couldn't believe the kids were doing.
I will tell you from my point of view as being an elementary school teacher that it was so, not so much in my district, but I was in a district for a while where kindergartners were taking exams and tests, and a bird just came to my skylight.
Mhm.
How synchronistic of that. um so you you are basically breaking the nature and the natural ability of a child to learn.
Mhm.
When you force them to these ridiculous systems that are strictly generated to make money for book companies, to make another money for an online course. Oy.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah.
Yes.
So
So what has been beautiful about that is, and the reason why I started talking about those two aspects, being able to stay home and see this, and being able to keep the kids here and see this, and then live in the country. We live in the country and see that despite of what was going on in the collective consciousness, all the fear, all the angst, etc., we were living a beautiful life, a life of peace, a life of joy, a life of communion. We were really excited to be with each other. So that is where the bulb went off. And I decided, why am I working full time at a job that keeps me away from my family, a job that I truly am not in alignment with, just to bring money for the family? Do they want me, or do they want the money, or do they no, they what they want is us together in living the life that we want to live. So earlier this year, I decided that I was going to be done with my corporate job, and it has been a career of over 2 decades, a successful career that has provided for my family and for me. I really cannot be other than grateful. But at this point, I realized that it is no longer serving me. Yes, it is providing a check every 2 weeks, and that is wonderful. But that is not happiness. That is not joy. That is not creative. It's not self expression. It's self slavery. So that's what I did, Anne Marie. I quit. I resigned in March. I gave them, no, it was a little bit later than March. Anyway, I gave them 3 months notice so that they would have enough time to find somebody to replace me that I could train. And my last day is August 30th of this year.
well, congratulations, Carol. That
Yeah.
is an incredible self-realization. And one of the most intense programs that we have running in our culture is this concept of the paycheck.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is it is a diabolical program that really, I never realized how diabolical it was until this past year, and how people literally slave and suffer, come into sickness, come into death,
Yes.
because of this, especially in my personal profession of education. You know, teachers, they will not take a sick day.
Mm.
They are of the ilk that you can't take a sick day because the world will fall apart. Well, guess what? The world kept on turning.
Yeah.
And we all had to stay at home a year ago and not go in, and we reinvented ourselves. And in one aspect of it, it was an incredibly creative time, but in another aspect, every pimple of the system made its way to the surface, and we saw every sad turn of events.
Mhm.
But besides that, Miss Carol Morgan, and I'm going to nail you to this one, you are the founder of a movement called Spirit Led the Journey, and it is a community on Mighty Networks that has grown to, I don't know how many subscribers.
Almost 1,000 now.
Almost 1,000 subscribers.
Yes.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
But a year ago or so, when I invited you onto my talk show, or my little podcast, whatever you want to call it, you failed to mention a very important part of this decision to break free. And I want you to discuss your relationship with a certain being known as Zena Allen.
Absolutely. And it wasn't a failure. It was very much a conscious decision.
Yeah, you sneaky girl. That's why I want to pin you down.
Very much a
Because
conscious decision.
this was a big, big growth for you.
Absolutely.
Talk to
Absolutely.
us about that, because you're going from a person from a Catholic background like myself, in a corporate job, and myself in education, and you had this covert life almost,
No,
right?
not almost. I totally did. I had my alter ego, right? I had my alter ego. Yes, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I come from a Catholic background. I was raised in Costa Rica, born and raised, and it's a very conservative environment. And when I moved here to the U.S. and started opening my wings, quite literally, I didn't realize that that was going to lead me into a journey of self-discovery. I knew I had to come here. I didn't know why, but Spirit just brought me here. And what I came here for was to break and deconstruct everything that I had built up for years as far as my self image and my concept of self is concerned. So when I found myself broken completely to pieces, that is when I became teachable. That's when I saw the light. And that's when I let go of Catholicism, the chains of guilt and shame and whatever it is that Catholicism had kept me uh, enslaved to, and open up to the beauty of spirit and the beauty of the true nature of consciousness and awareness and what humanity really is about. And in that journey, I learned what channeling was. I had no idea what channeling was. And in fact, you know what? As part of a talk that I gave earlier this week in Baltimore, Maryland, I actually looked up the definition of channel and channeling.
Okay.
And I am going to share this because this is something that I didn't even know. I didn't even know what channeling was several years ago. And it happens to say, the dictionary, that channeling is to serve as a medium for a spirit. It is actually in the dictionary. I'm like, oh man, if it's in the dictionary, it's legit, right? It also says, as a verb, it is to direct toward a particular end or object. You are directing energy towards
Right.
communication. You are directing it. So anyway, as I learned about channeling and whatnot, everything completely opened up for me. I Well, it's very interesting. I got into spirituality because I went to nutrition school, holistic nutrition, and I started learning about the ability of the body to heal itself by itself, given a half a chance. I started learning about the weaponization of food, GMOs, et cetera, chemicals, how we're living, how our lifestyle has us so sick. And that's really what opened up to spirituality. At the same time that I was doing this loop here on this side, my husband was doing the loop on this direction, but he has always been more out there, as I would like to describe it, than me. And he was looking for Bigfoot. He was looking for information on extraterrestrials, everything that has to do with the metaphysical, unknown, and misunderstood. And interestingly enough, we made a loop, each on our own direction, and then we came to the same spot. And when we started comparing information, we were blown away because although we were speaking different languages, kind of, and coming from different directions, we both came to the same spot, that truly, truly, truly we are spirit. And that what we see in reality is but a sliver of what truly is there. And in this journey, he met Tina Spalding, Tina Louise Spalding. He didn't meet, he started listening to her material in YouTube. And to make a long story short, I ended up meeting her. I ended up contacting her. I ended up working for her. I started in 18. And that year, 2018, in September, is when I met Zena Allen. Zena is a blue avian being. He is an extraterrestrial. And I met him during a meditation. And Tina was channeling Jesus during this meditation. And he was leading us to a being that was waiting for us to give us some information. So I approached it. And as I was approaching this being, I realized I was in the Swiss Alps. I've never physically been there, but I now understand that that was an out of body experience. And as I was approaching this being, although I could not exactly see the shape, I could sense the energy and see the energy, and it was way too large and too tall to be human.
Wow.
So I remember thinking as I'm approaching, I'm like, no freaking way. No, 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 this is not happening. Because Scotty was into UFOs and aliens and ETs and all that. I wasn't. It wasn't that I didn't believe in it, but I was comfortable with what I thought I could control and understand.
Now,
And
Carol, can I ask you at this point,
mhm,
did you have any sort of, if when you look back over your life, have
mhm.
you had any other experiences, let's call them interventions or channelings or communications that once you look back now, you're like, oh, you know what? Oh, I think that this was channeling. Oh, I think that this was channeling. Do you have any of those experiences that you
I
remember?
can't say that I do. I can't
Oh,
say that I do. I was completely asleep, completely unaware. The only interesting experience that I bring back to maybe 6, 7 years old was that we were in our farm in Costa Rica. It was around Holy Week, which is around April, March. That is the hottest time of the year in Costa Rica, and it is the transition between the rainy and the dry season. And when that happens, it gets stagnant, it gets hot, and there's earthquakes. So I remember that evening being outside and seeing a ball of fire in the sky, and it was humongous. And when I tried telling everybody, nobody believed me. But minutes after I saw that, we had the largest earthquake that I have been on, that I have experienced.
wow.
The pool water was just slapping, the actual pool cracked, the steps cracked. So that is the only experience that I could pin to something like that. I had been intuitively moved to do many things, including moving here,
Yeah.
but I can't really go back and say that was channeling. No, I was completely clueless.
Mm,
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Zena introduced himself. He gave me the message that I was to receive, and it was that I was on my way to changing the world. I didn't understand what that meant. And as time has gone by and our relationship has deepened, I have come to understand that the way that I am changing the world is by changing myself. It's by changing the way that I see everything and by changing the way that I interact with my other selves, because really, you are me having a different experience. So that's what I learned. And interestingly enough, very quickly, things started evolving with Zena. He told me that his name is Zena, but he is not Zena. Zena is just a name they use. They don't need names because they're telepathic beings. There is no need for such a thing. But we humans like names, we like labels. So they use it so that we have the ability to identify what is speaking to us. And the name Alan came later when my son drew a picture in Thanksgiving and misspelled alien. And so
Yeah.
it became Zena Allen. And what that has done is give me a gift of a pseudonym to put his work out in the world. And by work, I mean these beautiful energetic attunements like the one I'm wearing. I'm wearing the same one that I have hanging here.
Ah, good.
This is the holder of truth. All she's doing is being herself, and that is how she's holding her truth.
Can you describe for us the blue avians and how they relate to us as humanity?
What I know, because I'm on a need to know basis, and apparently part of that surrender to whatever I need to know is going to come to me makes me a good channel for them, is that there are sixth density beings that have interacted with humanity uh, for centuries. And it happened with the ancient Egyptians and it happened with the Mayans. And
Wow.
these civilizations had groups of priests. It wasn't even the pharaohs, it wasn't the shamans, it was the priests that actually took the information of the law of one, the law of unity, the law of love. We are love, we are one. And they manipulated it and they took it for themselves. They are the ones that understand the laws of creation, and they did so to keep humanity small, to keep us controlled.
Correct.
So when this happened, it karmically entangled the blue avians with us.
Mhm.
And as far as their mission is concerned, is to get humanity back into the awareness of that law of one in service to others, understanding that you are me having a different yet valid and valuable experience, and that unless we're all in awareness, in congruency with this message, we are not going to ascend. And ascension means basically the going into a higher frequency consciousness that is one of co-creation with spirit, one of communion in respect and love as the basis of everything that we do.
Correct. Brilliant. That's beautiful and brilliant. With this new focus on the concept of breaking free from these systems that have been in place 8, 9, 10,000 years, right, in our civilization. Can you kind of tell us this burgeoning, I would say, program that Zena has delivered to you? Last week and exactly a week ago, we were a group of us in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and Carol gave her first Breaking Free weekend conference. And I really believe that this is something that every living soul on the planet needs to hear about.
Mhm.
If not completely act on it, they definitely must listen to this concept. This is a process that I myself have been going through as well. This process of breaking free from systems that are not loving, these systems that we have been a part of for our entire lives. And the concept of release to spirit and coming to this true understanding of how loved we truly are and how our needs can completely be met if we are able to release the tethers that weigh us down into a dense state of being. Can you speak to that whole beautiful new system?
Yes, ma'am. So last Saturday was the first time that I was going to deliver this breaking free workshop. And at 4:44 in the morning, I was awakened by them to give me the contents that I was going to be delivering that weekend. So I had 10 hours ahead of me of workshop and no idea of how I was going to go about it because they had not given me the full content. They had given me ideas, but not the full content. So that is the quintessential surrender experiment because it was a little bit nerve wracking to be that late and not have the contents. But when I woke up, he gave me step by step a 9-step process that goes from radically accepting what you have already created to surrendering and trusting. And surrender is to radically accept what you have already created. So it goes full circle through 9 steps of how to break free. Truly, it is a recipe for breaking free. And he goes in depth on each step, how it is that you need to go through it if you resonate with the material, because there are many ways to do stuff. There are many ways home. It's not just one. But if something like this resonates with you, then that's what you go with. You use your inner guidance and say, this is it. This is it for me. And I truly believe that the future workshops and mentoring opportunities that are going to be derived from this are going to help a lot of people, especially at a time like now where people are just enslaved to fear in jobs they don't like, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very
Well,
excited.
I have already told you, Carol, that whenever you create, the franchise of the Breaking Free, I'm your first taker. Okay.
I have written it down.
I know. And I spoke to about 5 people, and each one of them was like, I want to hear all about it, because the entire human collective is done. The entire human collective is seeing how everything is a system of lies and empty obligations, empty promises. So it's going to be a big thing.
I am very excited about it, very excited. And yes, there are many unloving systems that are coming to the surface, and we are seeing the true core of them. And there are a lot of people that are going to need support, because even if these systems are unloving, it is what we have been accustomed to.
That's correct. That's very, very correct.
Mhm.
So I still want to commend you, because I was out and proud when I started to channel. I started I think I went and looked at my first video on YouTube almost 4 years ago, like 3.5 years ago. And because I have no secrets. I flow freely with myself. But were a very kind of private person. And I want you to talk about this coming to your radical acceptance as to who you are, because you are indeed a channel of spiritual information, of incredibly loving beings. And what was it like for you from last May until, let's say, last weekend, where you were in front of a group of 35, 40 people, having to come out as yourself?
So I liken it to being pushed by a train at 70, 80 miles per hour, where my little legs are just trying to keep up. And all of a sudden I realized that the momentum wasn't going to stop and that I needed to get going and run on my own. That's basically how it has happened, because I have felt the push from, or it really is a push. You can call it a nudge, but it really, really had a lot of momentum, the push from spirit to get me out and do what I needed to come do in this incarnation. And I had to come to accept that I came here to help other beings in a rather unconventional way, in a way that is not quite fully openly accepted, but that it is becoming so, in that I am here to be at the leading edge of that consciousness revolution. And at the leading edge, it can be scary and it can be lonely. So I had many fears to clear up. I had many fears to deal with. I knew, Anne Marie, at all times that I was going to continue going at the rate at which I was able to, and that everything happens in due order. We have an attunement from Zena called in due order, in due time, I'm sorry, and in perfect order. Those are 2 attunements. And I knew that it was going to happen when it needed to happen. But in the meantime, I had to do a lot of inner work and clearing of misconceptions and fears of what others are going to think of me, cleared. Fear of losing my corporate job, cleared, etc., etc. So it has been an amazing journey of surrender. That's what it has been, in coming to stand in my own power and realize that by me not being courageous and stepping into this, I am going to risk shining my light on many people that need a little light in order to shine their own.
Yeah. Wow, that's really quite beautiful. And I've noticed that transition in you, and it's a beautiful thing. You are a natural leader. You are an incredible worker. I mean, work devoted to this. And that is something that I totally admire in you. And I thank you so very much. You've created this platform called Spirit Led, and it allows somebody like it myself to be who I am and to share my gifts on there. Can you talk a little bit about your community there and any plans you have for that?
That community is a godsend. And basically what it is, well, how it started was it was my way of getting out in the world and saying, hey, I channel. So I started putting little messages there, and we started with like 3 people when I first told them that I was channeling. It started on Facebook. A year later, in 2019, Zena said, you need to get off Facebook. That is an unloving system. Let's get off it. I moved it to Mighty Networks, lost a half of the community. So
Yeah.
it went from 200 to 100. And then it just has continued to evolve organically, where people find it one way or another and they join. And Spirit Led is a free community, again, on Mighty Networks, where people are encouraged to share their gifts, whatever they may be, whether it be spiritual gifts or personal gifts of love and support, whatever it may be. And it gives them the opportunity to receive as well, because everybody can come as they are and open themselves up to be vulnerable and show who they really are in times of need. All of us, we have times of need. We have times where we need to be supported, where we need to be loved and embraced. And that's what this community does. So we encourage each other to channel, to have fun, to share our gifts, and to support each other when there are times of need. So I will provide the link so that we can put it at the bottom and people can knock at the door and come on in. It is free. We have talks, we have events that are free. Then we also have paid events and retreats and whatnot. And another neat aspect, there's your kitty cat. He's like,
I know.
in.
Here we go. This is Anne Marie life here.
He's like, there is no way you're going to keep me out of this one.
No, he's a sweetheart. And I've got the setting sun coming in my face here.
Good. And the other very neat aspect of Spirit Led the Journey is that it is a repository of Zena's work.
Yes.
And not only the beautiful attunements that are hand drawn, but also the ones that are digitized, and also the merchandise that my partners and I have put out. I created a partnership led by Zena with 4 other amazing, beautiful beings. Zach, Janet, Daniel, Mackenzie, and I came together to put this work out in the world. And that website is zinaallen.com, XINAALLEN.com.
I wanted to just briefly have you talk about the concept of, and considering you are a businesswoman, you are involved in that world, the world of finance. And I want you to discuss what it means to have created a 5D business. My son he's been in food service for most of his young life. And we were just speaking the other day about how the owners have their income, the servers make their income, yet the people who sit in the back over the stoves are paid pittance and they're there all day long, and how a true slave system is. And that is a system where we rely on every day. Millions and billions of people need to be fed, and they're being fed from a system of slavery. So talk to us about the concept of doing business from the fifth density, from a density of love. Can you talk to us about that, please?
Absolutely. When we started getting together, I talked to these 5 people, brought them together. Zena actually was the one that showed me who I was to be calling. When we came together, we decided that we were going to build a partnership versus a corporation. That is step one. And Zena stepped in very clearly when the accountant said, you should do a subchapter as corporation for taxation reasons.
Mhm.
When I brought it back to our partners, we didn't feel that that was a good idea. And Zena channeled for us and said, corporations are basically destroying the fabric of your society. Their impersonal nature allows them to do very corrupt things at the expense of you with your money, with your free will, and with your work.
Correct.
So we decided, okay, we're going to do a partnership. So that's the first concept of 5D business, is a partnership, an equal partnership where we all have the same voice, where love is at the basis of it in our well-being. What that means is every week when we meet, the first thing we do is a family check-in. And we go one by one, sharing how we're doing, what it is that we're facing, et cetera, et cetera. In Anne Marie, there are times where the whole meeting is the checkup and we don't get to any business items.
Right.
Why? Because in the regular corporate world, they tell you you leave your personal life at the door.
Right.
But you cannot do that because it is part of you.
Mhm.
It is the largest part of you, is your personal life. So what we do is with love support each other, and with love carry each other throughout life, not just what is going on there. And then in addition to that is to make decisions together, to be transparent, to be loving, to bring community in. And in every decision that we make sure that we are aligning with love. That is what 5 business is, 5D business. And yes, it is a business. There needs to be profit, or else you're not going to be able to maintain it.
Right.
But if you are truly focused on service to others and service to society, everything is going to fall into place. So that is what we are doing there. And our intentions, although we have the products which are beautiful and get the attunements out in the world, and I can speak a little bit about what attunements are, what is most important is the community building that we are doing in the community services, bringing in smaller entrepreneurs that don't know truly how to run their business, and help them either get started or giving them a leg up with consulting services so that they focus on what they love, and yet they're able to operate in a 3D environment towards the fifth dimension. It's beautiful. It's amazing. Now, I have to share, it is challenging because nobody else is doing it.
Right.
And because when you are doing something that is new, you need to trailblaze. And we're not using Facebook, we're not using Instagram, we're not using YouTube. We are staying very close to what is truly loving, so that when these systems fall, we will already have the answer.
Mhm.
So we're navigating, and if it truly would be all about profit, we would be operating like everyone else.
Right.
But what we're doing is finding, creating, and encouraging new ways of doing business, so that when the classic unloving cutthroat practices are no longer
Right.
viable, there is a substitute for them.
Well, I can't even tell you how amazing it is to, number one, be a witness to your growth, be a witness to the healing of Zena Allen, having chatted with him on a few occasions myself. Just in before we close this up, I want you just go ahead and explain what these attunements are, and then of course maybe bring him through.
Why not? Let's do it. So why don't I actually let him speak about the attunements?
Woohoo! All right.
Let's let him speak about the attunements and his work and his role with humanity and anything else that he feels that he needs to share with us right now.
Should I get rid of the cat? Is that going to bother him at all? That he's, I've got the cat and he's a big bird. No.
Leave the kitty cat where he is. As long as you're good with him, there is no problem with the kitty cat there.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just going to explain that my channeling is telepathic communication. I don't need to close my eyes, but I do so that I don't get distracted and I can stay more clearly out of the way. So I will close my eyes and bring him in. My name is Zena. My name is Zena Allen indeed. And what a beautiful communion. It has been quite a joy to see the progression of the relationship between these two beings. It has been quite amazing to us to see how they found each other, how they have progressed in their spiritual journey, how they have bloomed like flowers, and how they have evolved by facing their fears, by cleaning their closets, and by surrendering to what really is moving them, what really is creating passion in them, what is really moving them towards spirit. It is amazing indeed. My name is Zena Allen, yet, as this being has explained, I am not Zena. I am consciousness. We all are consciousness. We are part of all that is, that has emanated from a single photon, a limitless, beautiful, all encompassing, benevolent, loving force that includes everything, that is everything, that involves everything, that embraces all. We say to you, dear beings, our work with humanity is one of aiding you in your ascension. This one has given some part of the history between humanity and the blue avians, and we will not delve into it. But we want to share with you, dear beings, that there is much, much for humanity to do at this time. And it is important that you open your minds and that you entertain the possibility that you are not alone in the universe. Entertain the possibility that what you see is but a fraction of what reality truly is. And entertain the idea that your thoughts are creating your reality. Music to our ears. So what we do is we simplify material information, spiritual information, we shall say, so that you are able to integrate it into your daily lives little by little. There is a plethora of spiritual information out there. We do not compete with Google, dear beings. We help you integrate these concepts, breaking them down to how do you do things on a daily basis so that you continue to stay in alignment with love and in congruency with your true nature, which is love. Part of our work is through these energetic attunements. These are not upgrades, dear beings. Upgrades require your consent. These attunements are fine-tuning your energy very much like the windshield wipers clean the windshield as you're going. It is not making the windshield better, no, but it is allowing you to see better through it. That is what an energetic attunement is doing. It is cleaning the gook so that you may experience energy at its maximum capacity. That is what this work is about. And it is work that at this time in consciousness, it's much needed. We say to you, dear beings, we do not come to convince anyone. We come to reason with humanity. You find yourselves at a intersection where you are being called, dear loves, to choose between love and fear. And at this intersection, there are many beings that, in very much their ego mind in frightfulness, are making choices that are continuing to lower and lower their frequency, their vibration. When you do this, dear beings, you are putting yourselves in a position to continue to meet with low frequency experiences, people, places, and things. And what we are here to do is to allow you to understand, dear beings, that you are doing this with your every thought. You are deciding with your every thought that turns into a belief through repetition how it is that you want to live and what kind of world it is that you want to see. You may not think of it this way, dear loves, but that is what you're doing. So, those that are choosing love, those that are choosing to do that which is joyful to them in alignment with self expression and creativity and happiness, are increasing their frequency to the point where they are meeting those experiences that match their vibration and are having very different realities than those that don't. So, what we say to you, dear beings, is the choice is yours. You are the captain of your ship. You are the one that is creating your reality. There is no one to blame. There is no judgment. And truly, there is no punishment. Through self forgiveness, you will come to a place of self acceptance and love. The more you love yourself, the more you allow others to be, and the better in flow you are with that which is in alignment with light. We want to thank you for tuning in. We appreciate the opportunity to communicate with humanity, and we will speak again at another time.
Thank you, Zena, and thank you, Carol. What well, onwards, onwards, onwards. We have great work to do. We have done a lot of work, but we still have great work to do. And I hope that all those people who have resonated enough with this message to stick it out to the end will take it even a step further. Subscribe to this channel or to definitely join the Mighty Network's Spirit Led the Journey. And I thank you again, my dear friend Carol, for spending some time with me. And we are sisters in this journey. We truly are.
Thank you so much, Anne Marie. I really appreciate you having me here. It is an honor. It is such a joy every single time. And I love you.
I love you too. Have a beautiful evening, everyone.
Thank you.